My name is Rachel and I'm from the Defend Safe Schools group, and we organise this vigil. We are all here with heavy hearts, joining hundreds of vigils across the world in solidarity with friends and families of the victims of Orlando. 50 members of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, intersex, queer community and straight friends were murdered in a wretched act of homophobia and racism last night. The shootings took place in Orlando's mostly Latino gay nightclub, Pulse. There was also 53 injured. This horrific act was a homophobic act, but it was also a racist act. And we called this vigil, that has been endorsed by a large range of organisations, 20 so far in the last 5 hours. Before we begin, DSS want to say that this act of hateful murder should not fuel more bigotry and rage. We want to build a community of love, not hate. So this action stands against homophobia, racism, transphobia. And finally, anti-racist, anti-Muslim sentiment or Islamophobia also has no place at this rally. And we stand in solidarity with our Muslim sisters and brothers who are suffering increased hate speech, bullying and worse for the despicable act carried out by Omar Martin.
We're not here because of a peaceful act. I wish we were. An act of this magnitude should never, ever have occurred. An act of this magnitude is not because of the person's racial or religious background. It's because of the society the person was brought up in. It's because of what we teach within our social sections of our society, what we teach. We teach separation, we teach hatred. And that's got to stop. That has to stop. In traditional Aboriginal society, we had skirmishes, but every 4 years groups came together. And we didn't say who started what, who did this, you did that, or your culture's wrong, your language is wrong, or you say the wrong thing. We didn't do that. We said stop. And from that day on it stopped. Hostility ceased. We've got to learn to live like that again, because we cannot cope as a civilization on hearing 50 people dead. Don't ever get yourself sensitised to that. This morning I started thinking, am I becoming sensitised to this? And no. I felt the tears well up in my eyes and I thought, no, I'm not sensitised to it. And I won't be.
My name is Ahmed Sohaib. I'm the Education Officer for Sydney University Postgraduate Representation Association. And I'm also a practicing Muslim. I'm deeply saddened by the loss of life at the Orlando shooting. And I'm angry that it was done under the name of Islam during the holy month of Ramadan, a month dedicated to peace and inner reflection. There's nothing Islamic about yesterday's event, and I refuse to sit idle while radicals use my religion to carry out acts of terror. I'm here with my LGBTQIA brothers and sisters to condemn such act of cowardness. And I'm here because I cannot stand quiet anymore. I am with you in this fight against homophobia and hate. Yes, hate. Because yesterday's event was nothing but hateful. And by coming together, we can show the world that love will always win over hate. Together, hand in hand, we will stand in solidarity and observe a minute of silence to remember the great souls we lost last night.
My name is Brodie Paparella. I also am part of Defend Safe Schools. And it's my privilege to introduce our next speaker. Before I do, I'd just like to say, I hope that you've all told everyone you love that you do today, because that is what's brought us here. It's not hate or fear, we've had plenty of that today. It's love, and it's the generation of strength through community that has brought us all together. And I'm so proud and so honoured to see you all here today.
My generation grew up in a sea of hatred. We were always vulnerable. And tonight I feel that vulnerability very deeply, again, because all throughout our history, people like me and you many of us here, we have always been subject to massacre. Those massacres often have gone unwritten, unacknowledged, police cover-ups, media complicity. Our lives have not been equal to the lives of others because we've been regarded as not as equal as others in society. I thought we had moved on. I thought we are moving on in history. But of course we're not. We always have to come out like you have tonight, to stand up, to call it out, and to say enough of this violence against our community.
Even though this atrocity happened in the United States, it has struck a chord around the world and strengthened our resolve. The emotions are still raw and we don't know the full story. But we can take solace in the fact that we are resilient, we are strong, and we will continue to combat fear with love. Anger and hate does not get us anywhere. Our community stands for love, peace, and acceptance.
Yes!
Let us grieve, but let us also celebrate the lives of the victims whose only crime was to be out celebrating life. Tonight we stand strong and show our support, but also in defiance against those who still oppose our right to exist. Now is the time to come together as a community and stand unified. Let's show the world that not just Sydney, but Australia is standing strong in support. Thank you.
Queer spaces exist because they're the only places in which we feel safe. They're the spaces where men don't grope me on the dance floor or don't interrupt conversations with me and my friends with some pickup line. They're the spaces where I can kiss someone without being yelled at or stared at or spat at. They're spaces where my gay brothers are freed from the toxic masculinity that tell them that they're disordered. They're spaces where my trans siblings are free from assault and murder. They're spaces where queer bodies and identities can simply exist, where they can remove the armour of defiance and resilience that they brace themselves with every time they leave the house and go into the public arena that holds them in such contempt. Don't tell me this is not political. I'm devastated for the lives lost in Orlando and for all my LGBTQIA siblings around the world who won't be able to find a queer space and a queer community where they feel safe. Like the one I was at last night in Marrickville when this happened. And I'm furious at our cowardly Prime Minister who will happily pose for a photograph at Mardi Gras and then deny that this was a hate crime and perpetrate violence about our queer youth in schools and our gay couples who just want to get married and our entire community. Discrimination against LGBTQIA people causes violence against LGBTQIA people. Queer lives are not up for debate, and queer lives matter. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to share this speech with my daughter. She's representing the young generation that was born in Australia from the Latin American community. It's very sad to hear what happened, and I was very upset, and even more now to hear that a lot of people of the Latin American background are dead today. It's not about where they come from, but many of them are from, like us, came from regimes, dictatorships, oppression, prison. It's very likely that most of the parents of those kids came out of their countries because of what was happening in their countries. And they were able to express who they were in the United States, and that's what they thought. So we are with the gay, lesbian, transsexual, transgender, and queer community, and we are with you. We are all together. This is, as the girl said before, this is a political issue. We need to talk about politics, because if it wasn't for guns and weapons in the United States, there wouldn't be massacres like this. If the government wasn't the way it is, it wouldn't be this way. That needs to be controlled. We're lucky that we have still gun controls, but we need to be careful with the governments that we select, because otherwise we can go that way. I'll pass it on to my daughter now, Camila.
Well, my mom said it pretty well, but I just want to comment on whoever wrote that sí al amor, no al odio, todos somos iguales, which means yes to love, no to hate. Everyone is equal. And whoever wrote that, thank you. Gracias. I'd just like to add that she forgot a very special part of the LGBT community, which is the being bisexual, which I am. And I woke up this morning happy because it was a sunny day, and then I saw what was on the news, what was online, and it was shocking, it was sad, I cried a little bit, but now I don't have tears, I just have hate, not actual hate to the people or not even to the person, but to the ideology that he had that led him to get that hate onto other people who just want to show their love in a place that they thought that was safe. And I thought that was safe, but I'm not so sure anymore. And I hope that this doesn't scare anyone from not expressing themselves. And we should stand united and be like, no, fuck you, I'm gonna stand here and be I'm gonna stand here, and I'm part of this community, and I'm proud to be part of this community. Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah! Alright, thank you. That's all I have. Thank you.
This is not just about Orlando and America. An attack on the LGBTIQ community in any part of the world is an attack on all of us. As queer people, we're still fighting for safe spaces and queer rights. We also have this shared trauma because we know firsthand about discrimination, violence and intimidation, and about being marginalised because we're marginalised every single day. But at the same time, I'm so proud to be part of this community because I know we're loud, we're fierce, we're strong, we're resilient, and we're political. That's why we'll continue to come together and speak out about discrimination wherever it happens in the world. We're not going to let right-wing crazy people use this as a way to create more fear and more hate. We stand as the LGBTI community with all oppressed people, women, Indigenous people, poor people, students, people of colour, Latino people, Arabic people, and the Muslim community. And we know about discrimination because it happens in our own backyard. We have a Prime Minister, Turnbull, who refuses to create safe schools. He's made damaging cuts to Medicare, and in the most recent budget, he cut over $100 million to homeless services. These are life-saving services that the LGBTI community depends on.
With pain in my heart, you and I are standing here tonight, surrounded by many other like-minded people around the world in support for our fellow friends whose lives were taken too early, who were injured and who witnessed the horrific events in Orlando. Together we will forever stand with the families, friends and communities whom are sadly in the process of grieving. We support you and we will never stop supporting you. As a student, as a child, as a daughter of a same-sex mum, as a friend for those within the LGBT+ community, as a member of Defend Safe Schools, I am truly in a pure state of shock. I stand here today with a million questions in my head. Why has this happened? Is the question that is resonating so deeply within me. As I'm aware, many of you are also probably struggling with the same question as I am. Pulse was a safe nightclub for many queer youth and the rainbow community in general. The fact that this has now been destroyed is unimaginable. It was a haven for those who felt comfortable enough to express who they truly were, for those who wanted to celebrate and embrace their identity that was stolen from them. If now is not a prime example for how necessary programs that promote anti-bullying, anti-homophobia, anti-transphobia, anti-biphobia, then I do not know when would be a perfect time.
This campaign and this coming together is by no means over. We're all more than aware of that, and there are so many things coming up. I want to thank everyone who has actually approached the organisers tonight and asked them if they were able to speak. I'm sorry that our full program didn't give you that chance tonight, but that doesn't mean you have no chance. However you found out about this event, please connect with Defend Safe Schools in order to find out when other events are happening and all of the other there's so many groups who are doing stuff, so reach out to them and let them know that you have something to say. You have the right to be heard. That's why we're here. So make sure that you're doing that. Don't be discouraged at all. Speaking of events coming up, probably the next biggest one, as far as I'm aware, is the June 25 marriage equality rally run by the Community Action Against Homophobia group. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be epic. So please make sure that you have RSVP to that and you have shared that and you've made sure that everyone in Sydney is going to be there. So important. If you do want to come into something a little bit smaller, Defend Safe Schools are also having a meeting next week, Friday evening. We usually meet out at UTS. So hit up that page. The reason why Defend Safe Schools coordinated this particular event is similar to what Maren said, that the basis of this attack was ignorance, and it was a lack of education, and it was the inability for people to recognise how important it is for safe spaces to exist for any community, and the queer community in particular tonight. Pulse was supposed to be one of those safe places. Every single school in which a young person attends is meant to be one of those places. No questions. No student should go to a school and not feel safe. That is not what schools are for. The Safe Schools program is not asking for an extension of rights, it's asking for those basic rights to be acknowledged. And that is why we all coordinated this event.